on satellite, on Freeview, on cable, on radio, on mobile, on the web and around the world. This is First at 9 on Other Derana 24/7.
Tonight, election postponement. Former Chief Justice files a fundamental rights petition against the AG, the Speaker and the Chief of Elections Commission. The lone battle. Global Sri Lanka Forum continues its fight against LTTE sympathizers in Geneva.
Every single year, since 1983 until 2009, you are killing our people. You are killing Sinhalese, and Sinhalese people never did anything to damage.
Tobacco issue. Health Minister Dr. Rajitha Senaratne says smoking is in the decline, but the World Health Organization asserts there is more to accomplish.
Still 1 in 2 men in Sri Lanka smoke.
Take swift action. Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa says that failure of the present government has led to the Uma Oya project to be a disaster. And in sports, gone with class. Sri Lanka's cricketing legend Kumar Sangakkara retires from first-class cricket. Good evening to all our viewers across Sri Lanka and around the world. Welcome to First at 9. I'm Mahesh Johnny. Our coverage tonight begins with a look at the local news. President Maithripala Sirisena calls on all ministers to attend every district development committee meeting held under their purview with effect from January next year. The president was addressing the second meeting of the National Economic Council held at the Presidential Secretariat today.
Second meeting of the National Economic Council was focused on the Ministry of Industries and Commerce and the Ministry of Primary Industries. Members of the council, including Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, Finance Minister Mangala Samaravira and Central Bank Governor Dr. Indrajit Kumaraswamy, discussed the operation and future programs of the relevant ministries.
All ministers must go to every district development committee meeting under their purview from January onwards. They should then compile a presentation which shows the progress or current situation of the ministries under their purview.
Meanwhile, the president had given instructions to import 500,000 metric tons of rice in the next few months without considering the prices in the international market. President Sirisena revealed the decision at a special meeting held yesterday at the Presidential Secretariat on prices of essential food items.
Prices of all essential food items are increasing. We have to control this. A decision we made on this is also not properly implemented. The price of imported big onions the day before yesterday was 61 rupees and 14 cents, but its selling price is at 170 rupees. The private sector is selling these food items for an unreasonable price. This is not something that should be told by the president.
During the meeting, the president had also instructed relevant authorities to reduce prices of all types of rice sold at Lanka Sathosa stores from tomorrow onwards. Meanwhile, Chairman of Lanka Sathosa TMKB Tennakun also expressed views on the matter at a media briefing today.
We will publicize all prices by midnight today. Price of white kakulu rice will be reduced from 68 rupees to 65 rupees, while price of samba rice will be reduced from 89 rupees to 84 rupees. Then prices of red kakulu rice will be reduced from 75 rupees to 71 rupees. Prices of white kakulu samba will be reduced from 94 rupees to 90 rupees, while prices of red kakulu samba will be reduced from 90 rupees to 88 rupees. Prices of Thailand sprats will be reduced from 539 rupees to 525 rupees. Then selling price of big onions will be 125 rupees, while selling price of local potatoes will be 130 rupees. Former Chief Justice Sanathan Silva today filed a fundamental rights petition at the Supreme Court. The petition seeks an order to the Elections Commission to hold elections in provincial councils already expired under the existing election law. It makes evident that the Provincial Council Elections Amendment Bill passed in Parliament on the 20th of this month contradicts the law.
Minister of Provincial Councils and Local Government Faiz Mustafa tabled the draft bill to amend the 1988 No. 2 Provincial Council Election Act on the 26th of July this year. The purpose of the amendment was to ensure that women representation in provincial council elections does not fall below 30%. The relevant debate was held on the 20th of this month in Parliament, during which parliamentarians of the joint opposition opposed the amendment, citing that the consent of provincial councils was not sought. The government is attempting to postpone elections by introducing an amendment to the provincial council election system at working committee stage. The Speaker, however, informed Parliament later that a two-third majority, including those absent, is required to pass it. Accordingly, the Provincial Council Election Amendment Bill passed in Parliament with a two-third majority. Despite being passed, it drew criticism from the Bar Association of Sri Lanka and members of the joint opposition. Within this backdrop, former Chief Justice Sanathan Silva today filed a fundamental right petition at the Supreme Court against the Provincial Council Election Amendments Bill. Attorney General Janta Jayasuriya, Speaker Karu Jayasuriya and the Chairman of the Election Commission Mahinda Deshapriya are named as respondents in the petition.
At
the committee stage, they removed all the parts that were approved and introduced a new law regarding provincial council elections. Accordingly, the elections should be held under an electorate system. The bill that was passed after the third reading is not the bill that was read for the second time. There is confusion regarding law on provincial council elections. This is done by both the government and the Elections Commission. Now the Elections Commission says they don't know what the new law is and elections will not be held. That's why we seek a clear decision from the Supreme Court. We need an order saying such amendments cannot be brought without people being made aware of it. They say the Elections Commission is independent. There is no use of it being independent because they haven't held a single election.
Let's take you to Geneva now. Heated words were exchanged at a conference facilitated on the sidelines of the 36th regular session of the United Nations Human Rights Council today as well. The conference was held at the headquarters of the United Nations in Geneva, Switzerland.
A heated debate took place between representatives from the Global Sri Lankan Forum and LTTE sympathizers at the headquarters of the UNHCR.
In the Nandigadal Lagoon, on the verge of finishing the war, Prabhakaran went into the Nandigadal Lagoon, surrounded by about 300 innocent Tamil people, including pregnant women, and planted thousands of anti-personnel mines.
Declared openly that there was only 70,000 people in the Vandi region, okay? But it ended up with nearly 280,000 people in the camps.
So what is the big deal about that?
What is the deal is, what was the intention of the Sri Lankan army? The intention of the Sri Lankan army, they knew very well that there were nearly 400,000 people. Their intention was to kill all the people.
It is the Sri Lankan army who sent those people. I just read out 4 years. Every single year, since 1983 until 2009, you were killing our people. You were killing Sinhalese. And Sinhalese people never did anything to Tamils. Yeah. We never did and we will never do. We are not like you. We are not like you, sir.
Ministry of Law and Order and Southern Development says that the government has no plans to grant citizenship for refugees who are under the care of the United Nations High Commission for Refugees. Issuing a communique, it added that the UNHCR are taking measures to relocate Rohingya refugees in Sri Lanka to another country. Meanwhile, media spokesperson for the Secretary General of the United Nations, Stephen Durech, said that the UNHCR is grateful to the Sri Lankan government for offering protection to the group of refugees following the recent incident in Mount Lavinia.
On the issue of the Rohingyas, UNHCR says that it's alarmed by an incident yesterday when a shelter outside of Sri Lanka's capital, Colombo, housing Rohingya refugees, mostly women and children, was attacked. UNHCR is grateful to the Sri Lankan authorities for its support and protection of these refugees. The agency is concerned for the safety and security of the shelter's staff who are providing assistance to the group.
Meanwhile, several political parties expressed their views with regards to the Rohingya refugee crisis at various forums today.
This group of refugees is under the protection of the UNHCR. They don't intend to live in this country and there is no plans of giving them citizenships. They are a group who are to be relocated to America and Canada in the near future. We have done this twice before. Because of recent happenings, our country's good name will be lost. It does not matter what race or religion you are, no good will come from such hostility. According to the laws of the country, we cannot give them citizenships and we have no plans to do so.
Look at
what happened recently with the Myanmar refugees. We must ask ourselves whether we are Sri Lankans. When someone is in trouble as Buddhist Sinhalese, is this how we react? Sri Lanka has a legal process when it comes to matters relating to refugees. Therefore, it should be followed accordingly. Issues occur when a government does not abide the law.
Meanwhile, issuing a communique today, the Ministry of Law and Order and Southern Development clarified that the 30 Rohingya refugees who were living in Mount Lavinia arrived by boat illegally and were handed over to the UNHCR office in Sri Lanka following a court order issued by the Mallaka Magistrates Court on the 8th of August 2017. The communique further noted that the Sri Lankan government has been accepting Rohingya refugees in the past without any protest from organizations, and it is therefore evident that the recent incident which took place in Mount Lavinia was in order to fulfill political objectives. Meanwhile, the Acting Inspector General of Police ordered the Colombo Crimes Division to conduct investigations into the tense situation which arose opposite the three-story house which housed the group of Rohingya refugees in Mount Lavinia.
Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa says the environmental harm caused by the Uma oil project could have been averted if remedial measures had been taken in time. Issuing a media communique today, he said that the new government took no action because they were too busy prosecuting the opposition. He also mentioned that the Janatha Vimukthi Peramuna was also busy prosecuting Rajapaksas and helping the United National Party to run the FCID to make representation to the government to rectify a problem that has arisen in the only major project ever initiated by a JVP minister. President Mahinda Rajapaksa in his statement says that the idea of the project was first raised in 1959 in a study carried out by the United States Operations Mission and the Canadian Hunting Survey Corporation. According to him, the project also featured in the United Nations Development Programme as well as Food and Agriculture Organization's master plan in years 1968 and 1969 for the Mahavali project. The statement goes on to say that the cabinet approval was granted on the 26th of January 2005 under the government of former President Chandrika Bandaranaike Kumaratunga to proceed with the Uma oil project based on a cabinet paper submitted by the then Minister of Agriculture, Livestock, Land and Irrigation, Anura Kumara Dissanayake. The former president says that the then Deputy Minister of his ministry was Bimal Ratnayake. In his communique, former president quotes the JVP minister's cabinet paper bearing number 05/036/039/002 dated 4th January 2005, which says, quote, "For the development of the southeast dry zone in Sri Lanka, particularly Hambantota and Monaragala districts, there is no other alternative unless water is diverted from Umaoya to the southeast dry zone," unquote. The former president also highlights the line which says, quote, "Therefore high priority should be given for this project," unquote. According to former President Mahinda Rajapaksa, whenever a large-scale infrastructure project is implemented, there will be communities that are adversely affected. He continues to say that mainly large projects were implemented during the 9-year tenure of his government. He goes on to say, quote, "And some displacements of people did take place, but there was no public unrest because problems were identified early on and compensation packages were provided to the satisfaction of those affected," unquote. In conclusion, the former president states that such alertness and efficiency is, however, lacking under the present government. In other local stories, Secretary of the Public Representation Committee on Constitutional Reforms, Winston Pathiraja, emphasizes that the proposed constitution has been undergoing a process of reforms over the past 2 years. Addressing an awareness program for the army personnel on the proposed constitution, he went on to say that recent criticism over the alleged lack of time given to make necessary decisions on the constitution is unreasonable.
The awareness program for army personnel on the proposed constitution was held at the auditorium of the Army Hospital in Narayanpeta today. Addressing the gathering, Additional Secretary of the Constitutional Assembly, Uresha Fernando, explained the main reason behind attempts to establish a new constitution.
So the constitution we have is one that has the needs and aspirations of the people who were there in 1978. The changing political, social, economic, cultural even factors will make it necessary to have a new constitution. So now we are looking at the needs and aspirations of the current Sri Lankan people who are living in the present generation.
Meanwhile, Secretary of the Public Representation Committee on Constitutional Reforms, Winston Pathiraja, emphasized that the proposed constitution was given due to process of public consultation.
The proposed new constitution has been going through a process of reform, commencing from a resolution having been passed in Parliament unanimously in March 2016, outlining the process of the proposed constitutional reform. What I want to stress here is that some people say that all of a sudden we are starting some constitutional reform and we are trying to pass it. But it is not so. In 2015 we started, now it is 2017. So for the 2 years it has been going through various processes. Unlike the way in which the past 3 constitutions were enacted, the proposed new constitution is given due process of public consultation. The first phase of the program was over. We are now in the process of starting the second phase of program, that is only for the civil society.
Now here's an interesting fact. 1 in 2 men in Sri Lanka smokes. Now this fact was revealed at a media briefing held at the Ministry of Health, Nutrition and Indigenous Medicine today on the subject of tobacco control in the country. The United Kingdom pledged $20 million towards the implementation of tobacco control programs in Sri Lanka, worked off by the World Health Organization.
Sri Lanka is selected as one of 15 countries under the 2030 Programme of Framework Convention on Tobacco Control by the World Health Organization. It will focus on implementing various legislative programs to eradicate the use of tobacco in Sri Lanka. The programme will be funded by the UK government.
Project is a 5-year initiative to focus on implementation of the various aspects of legislation and programmatic action that has been carried forward and need to continue to be implemented and fast-tracked, because even with all these efforts, still 1 in 2 men in Sri Lanka smoke. There is still a lot to be covered, and we hope that we would reach our goal of a tobacco-free Sri Lanka.
And in Sri Lanka, oral cancer is the most common form of male cancer. That Sri Lanka is the only country in the world where this is so. And this alone is a good argument for investing in this way. The economic costs of tobacco use are clear. Productive lives are lost, and people who should be healthy become burdens on their families and on our health systems. It's estimated that around the world every year there are 7 million tobacco-related deaths.
In the meantime, Minister of Health Dr. Ajitha Senaratne says that tobacco consumption in Sri Lanka has decreased and elaborated on the reasons.
Taxation of 90% of the price being taxed by us. So this is the highest tax enforced by any government against tobacco in any part of the world. With that taxation, the smoking in our country has come down by 46%. All those legislations will be brought in the future, and also we are going to ban tobacco cultivation by 2020, and we are going to give alternative plantation for those.
If we're successful in our efforts through the Framework Convention on Tobacco Control, we will reduce demand for tobacco products for the good of public health and for the good of families and for development of countries. And if that means that the tobacco companies run out of business as a result of that, then for public health that can only be a good thing.
A cadre of SLFP provincial councillors of the Eastern Provincial Council say they will defect to the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna. They made their intentions clear during a media briefing this morning. Accordingly, Provincial Council members W.D. Veerasinghe, Chandra Thevaraperuma and T.M. Jayasena, representing the Ampara district, are set to defect.
When we look at the current situation of the country, we can understand in which direction the Sri Lanka Freedom Party has travelled. Their path does not suit us, and we left the Sri Lanka Freedom Party today and joined Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna in support of Mahinda Rajapaksa.
We made a decision to say our goodbyes to the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, in which we were a part till now. For the first time in history, Provincial Council ministers are leaving the party whilst objecting the disgrace done to Mahinda Rajapaksa and the betrayals as well as damage done to the SLFP. We have taken the membership of Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna and joined the power that is currently developing.
Issuing a release today, the Prime Minister's office stated that they have received complaints of a group who have duped the public by collecting funds in the guise of a program that is being held by the Prime Minister's office to provide employment in Japan. The release added that the office has not conducted any such initiative. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Education announced today that the decision to rehold the open examination on general intelligence for Sri Lanka Administrative Service. With that, let's take a look at other stories making news across Sri Lanka.
The Dunhinda waterfall, which is a tourist destination, is faced with pollution. 3 locations in close proximity to the waterfall were discovered to be unsecure owing to the ongoing destruction. Meanwhile, tourists who visit the waterfalls do not have adequate facilities. Our cameras also captured local and foreign tourists discarding rubbish in the area. Officials from the Department of Excise raided 2 illegal distilleries in Meeghatanna and Lihiniyawa in Matugama. The raid was conducted following a tip-off from a resident. Thereby, equipment used for illicit liquor production, including 10,000 millilitres of spirits, were confiscated by police. An order was given to Lord Vibhashana by the Mahasangha to stop politicians from disrespecting the clergy and to protect Buddhism in the country at the Devinura Sri Vishnu temple today. The religious ceremony was organised by the Maori Muslim Jataka Samudaya with the participation of members from the Mahasangha and the joint opposition. The Uva Provincial Council came into a unanimous decision to take action against the former Secretary of Education to the Central Province, who was promoted as the Chief Secretary of the Uva Province today for allowing school children to be used in a wedding in Kandy, which sought to set a Guinness World Record. MP Vimal Veeravansa was summoned to appear before the Negombo Magistrate Court for possession and use of an expired passport. The case will be taken up again on the 15th of February next year.
You are watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
Welcome back everyone. On to business news. Minister of Tourism Development John Amaratunga says the government is considering the possibility of setting up shopping complexes around Colombo Fort and the Golf Face area targeting tourists. He expressed these views addressing a media briefing held to reveal the dates for the Colombo Shopping Festival.
Colombo Shopping Festival 2017 is scheduled to be held from the 1st of October to 15th of November. The festival is organised to showcase and create a shopping experience and to promote Sri Lanka as a shopping destination for tourists.
Sri Lanka, the biggest, the most popular shops are not in one cluster. They are in different corners of the Colombo. Maybe in a year or two, tourists who come to Sri Lanka, who will occupy the 5-star hotels, will be able to walk down on a street and do their shopping and make use of their requirements. So this is something that the government is now very strongly considering. We don't know how things will go, but nevertheless, besides shopping, Sri Lanka is the best destination in South Asia.
Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, Dr. Indrajit Kumaraswamy, says that there needs to be a sustained growth in property development market. He made this remark at the 6th Policy Review meeting held in Colombo recently.
At first glance, it's clearly a segmented sector. The affordable housing sector, the middle income sector, there is a shortage. The question is whether there has been too rapid a build-up in the luxury market. And there, the argument for supporting the view that there isn't really any pressure in that segment of the market comes from the thesis that expatriate Sri Lankans, foreigners, etc., there is still pretty good demand, that there is rapid urbanization, people living in peri-urban areas, living in houses in peri-urban areas because of the transport pressures, are buying flats in town. So that there is kind of demand, there are demand side positives for the luxury end of the market. What we are trying to find out by working closely with the Property Developers Association is to have a very granular understanding of what is happening there and whether or not we need macroprudential measures to have sustained growth in the sector. We don't want in any way to stifle the sector, but to ensure that there is sustained growth.
Let's take you to the stock market now. Shares closed at a one-week high today as investors brought banking stocks and continued foreign buy in the market underpin positive sentiment. The Colombo stock index ended 0.2% up at 6,419.47, its highest close since 21st of September. To get the full picture of the day's trading, here's Imeshi Fernando from the Colombo Stock Exchange.
The market capitalization at the end of the day was 2,917.56 billion rupees. Today's foreign purchases were 515.92 million rupees and foreign sales were 405.41 million rupees. There were 4 crossings today and the crossing turnover was 153.3 million rupees.
Sri Lanka's trusted news brand, Derana 24/7.
On to international news now. China today dismissed allegations on breach of UN sanctions relating to North Korea. China's Commerce Ministry said the buffer period was allowed by the UN for the implementation of the ban on coal and seafood imports from North Korea. The comment comes in response to concerns over data which report China's imports of 1.6 million tons of coal from North Korea in August this year.
The import of 1.6 million tons of coal from North Korea was recorded on date of China's Administration of Customs and was taken up for discussions at a media briefing. The spokesperson for the Ministry of Commerce brushed off allegations of sanction violations.
Security Council resolutions give a buffer period for implementation of the ban on coal and seafood imports and will implement trade exchanges with North Korea in line with domestic laws and international obligations.
In other international stories, the founder and CEO of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, today responded to allegations labeled by US President Donald Trump, who said Facebook is being anti-Trump. In response, Zuckerberg said that Facebook attempted their best to remain a neutral social media platform.
Facebook, Twitter and Google are due to testify before the US Senate Intelligence Committee on the 31st of November on the allegations of Russian interference in the US presidential election. US President Donald Trump, who accused the newspapers New York Times and Washington Post of being anti-Trump, made the same allegation on Facebook via Twitter yesterday. Responding to allegations, Mark Zuckerberg said Facebook attempted to remain a neutral social media platform and that he supports the investigation by the US Congress.
Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Derana 24/7.
Welcome back everyone. A bit of cricket. Following a difficult time of late, Sri Lanka today put on a respectable display against Pakistan in the first test played in the UAE. Sri Lanka closed out day one on 227 for the loss of 4 wickets. Captain Dinesh Chandimal and opener Dimuth Karunaratne posted half centuries for the visitors. The match is played at the Sheikh Zayed Stadium in Abu Dhabi.
Pouncing on anything short is Dinesh Chandimal. Hasn't had many shots.
Sri Lankan cricketing legend Kumar Sangakkara retires from first-class cricket and says missed cricket terribly. In his last first-class innings for Surrey against Lancashire yesterday, the 39-year-old made an unbeaten 35. He scored almost 1,500 runs for Surrey this season at an average of 106.5, bringing an end to his first-class career, 89 runs short of 21,000 runs.
My reflexes, my game is based a lot on technique, not just hand-eye coordination. So I think as a result, I've had the kind of longevity that sometimes players who rely a lot on reflex might not have. Sometimes you hold on a bit too long, and I always think it's better to let go a bit sooner than later. Playing international cricket was never a prime ambition of mine, mainly because I never thought myself good enough to be able to play for my country. I walk away with a few regrets, of course, like anyone would, but I'm not walking away with it. I'm absolutely happy with the way I played the game, with what I've achieved there.
You are watching Sri Lanka's #1 news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
Katharina Chang is at the Other Derana Weather Centre with tomorrow's weather.
A very good evening and welcome to the Weather Centre. Starting off with your temperatures tonight, we can expect temperatures to vary between 20 and 36 degrees Celsius. Meanwhile, strong winds can be expected over surrounding sea areas, particularly the northern, north central, northwestern U and central provinces and in Hambantota district. Sunny weather is forecast in most areas in the northern region of the island as well as the eastern area. However, wet weather is expected to prevail in Colombo, Galle and Matra.
And that is a part of your world tonight right here on Other Derana 24/7. I'm Mahesh Johnny and I will be back tomorrow at the same time. Be sure to join me then. Before we wrap things up for tonight, we like to bring you some of the rich wildlife in the country. Thank you very much for joining us.
Bringing you the news and information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.